So, today I'm going to talk about Einstein. Yes, I'm going to talk about how he solved the unified field theory problem and he hid the answer in plain sight. Yes, indeed he did, I think. I think I can show you that. I'll make the case that that's what he did. First of all, he made a bunch of public comments that he's really famous for. If a 10-year-old doesn't understand it, you're wrong. I love that one. Conceptually, the answer to the unified field theory is really simple. The engineering that would be involved in applying it is really complicated. We're just going to talk about the conceptual side of it today. Remember, Einstein also said, God does not play dice, and he also said, quantum mechanics is not wrong, it is incomplete. These are three of the clues he left. He worked really hard on a paper. Well, whatever. Maybe it came to him easy. 1934, 1935, the last paper he published, the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paper, where he explored non-locality. He supposedly struggled for the rest of his life to find a theory that could better explain non-locality. I claim that that's a cover story. I think that's actually not true. But basically, this is the question that led to the discovery of entanglement later in our history, and the Nobel Prize being awarded for the discovery of entanglement. This also led to experimental confirmation that Bell's paradox was resolved by proving that nothing is there until you look at it. So this question became key, the question of non-locality. What happened, in my opinion, back then was this. Physics split into an open book and a closed book. The open book formulated the field theories, the Einstein field equations, as in the public formulation of general relativity, gravity is small. It is on the right side of the equation. It's given by that term 8 pi g over c to the fourth. That g is the Newtonian gravitational constant. It's an extremely small number. The basic thing that you're looking at is that on the left side of the equation on the top, the open book, that is the geometry of space-time. And on the right side, that is the stress energy tensor T sub mu sub nu, and the Einstein gravitational constant, kappa. Now, I have broken down kappa into its component parts, which is 8 pi g over c to the fourth, to show you that when you multiply this equation by the inverse, by c to the fourth over 8 pi g, to remove that term from the right side of the equation algebraically and move it to the left side of the equation, you get what I say is the closed book of general relativity that I believe the U.S. military developed in the early 1920s. So, what's the big deal about this formulation? It's this. That term, c to the fourth over 8 pi g, is a non-local high-frequency gravitational radiation that is beneath the Planck length, and it's a standing wave. It is beneath the Planck length because it is outside of space-time. What's contained within the parentheses is the Einsteinian tensor and the metric tensor multiplied by the cosmological constant, but that is space-time inside the parentheses. The only way something can stay outside of space-time is if it falls below the Planck length, because space-time ends at the Planck length. There is no zero here. It just ends at the Planck length. That's the smallest thing in this place where we are right now, according to Einstein's General Relativity. Now, over there on the right is the distribution of matter, energy, and momentum. What is that term, that high-frequency gravitational term? It is non-local. It is consciousness itself. It is faster than light. It is radiation. In other words, it's radio-like. It is radioactivity. It is a form of alternating current. Therefore, because that's what radio is. It is high-frequency gravity. It has a wavelength at or below the Planck length. It is also your innermost soul. It is God. It is the creator of all. That energy acting upon the geometry of space-time, surrounding it, creates the distribution of matter, energy, and momentum in this universe. That's what this field equation now says. There's a dynamic relationship between this energy and the geometry of space-time, and that dynamic relationship creates matter, energy, and momentum. We know that as quantum mechanics. This is the other side of the Planck barrier. C to the fourth over 8 pi g. That's what's sitting there. It is also the shared subconscious mind that passes through all living creatures. It is a standing wave. This closed book of General Relativity describes the physics beyond or behind the quantum vacuum. It completes quantum mechanics. It shows how God does not play dice, but actually creates everything. This describes the power source for the quantum vacuum itself. It describes what's beneath the quantum vacuum. And it is showing you the primary physics principle for how faster than light gravimetric motors work. There are two general ways to connect to c to the fourth over 8 pi g, whatever you want to call it. The Western way is with machines, and something that has a wavelength of 1.6 times 10 to the minus 37 meters will have the wavelength of the Planck length. Some energy that has that wavelength at the speed of light, and it has that wavelength, is 1.87 times 10 to the 37 megahertz. So if you can get high enough frequency, you can actually connect to this superforce, this high-frequency gravitational force that surrounds space-time at every point in space-time. This is something called quantum electrodynamic breakdown. When you reach an energy level that's so high that you can punch out the back wall, the Planck length of the quantum vacuum, and actually connect to the huge gravitational force behind it, you've connected to the superforce, to God, literally. Now, in the Eastern way, since c to the fourth over 8 pi g also contains all consciousness, as well as the four major forces that it unifies at this high frequency. Your consciousness is a part of it. It is your subconscious mind. You don't have any conscious control of your subconscious mind. If you did, you could control the superforce by thinking about it. Okay. There, yeah, you see that? I could read it. So, this term, c to the fourth over 8 pi g, forms radiation that's a non-local fabric, a standing wave of high frequency, non-local gravity waves in phase with itself across the entire universe. The distribution of matter, energy, and consciousness and momentum is written upon this fabric of standing waves. These are non-local gravity waves because they are so much faster than light. This is thought itself. This is consciousness itself. The eyes, the universal inside us, creates everything we're looking at. You are actually creating everything because you are part of like the universal observer, which is God. And God is creating everything trillions of times a second. God is deep inside our own eyes creating the universe. You and I are one, as is every other living creature on some level. You and I are also one with the earth. But most have disconnected to an injurious level. I think you need to be one with the earth to survive. I don't think this is fluffy. I think this is physics. This is where we get a little strange. But Tesla reached this in 1931 when he wrote a letter to the Brooklyn Eagle saying, "I have harnessed the cosmic rays and caused them to operate a motive device." This leads to a whole can of worms involving stories I was told 22 years ago by a guy. We'll get into that at some point, I'm sure. But Tesla in 1931 seems to have achieved something that Einstein adjusted for, or perhaps Einstein beat him there. I don't know. The fact is that Einstein and Tesla did not disagree in the end. Tesla seems to have gotten there using his famous expression, energy, frequency, and vibration is the secret of the universe. Well, he used vibration, Einstein used gravity. Other than that, they had two completely different kinds of equations. One clue someone told me, which I cannot prove to you, is that Tesla did not use any gravity in any of his equations when he did this. He used vibration. He's quite proud of that. He thought Einstein didn't know what he was doing, but I believe Einstein actually did, as I'll show you. Here we go once again. I've covered this briefly, but to reiterate, because I must teach, I feel I must teach this to people. Where we're sitting, there's no zero. And below that, it's the edge of space-time, and it's faster than light below that. And it's faster than light gravitational energy, super high frequency. That's what's there. Where you get unbounded by space-time, you get a huge speed increase. The speed limit's off. And so energy goes as fast as energy wants to go, which is way faster than the speed of light when you're outside space-time. This is also your consciousness. Your consciousness is phase locked with this carrier wave. This thing is a carrier wave, super high frequency gravity. And you are part of the carrier wave, your soul is lined up, your eyes, your brain, your consciousness is lined up. This is where drummers understand this. You're lined up with the beat of the world. You're grooving together. If you get out of step with the groove, you become frictionless in all dimensions. And you might turn invisible, and you might become lighter than air. You might move through solid matter with ease, or you might become incredibly dense in your body. You might move through space and time with ease. Does this sound like anybody you know? Just a joke, but that's a principle I wish to bring to your attention. Since this non-local gravitational radiation is a standing wave, and it also contains our consciousness, when we're out of phase with it, we're actually out of phase with all this reality that surrounds us. You don't have to believe me. You don't even have to think I have a clue. It's going to be tested. It is inevitable. This theory that I have proposed here will be experimentally tested in the natural course of events, because technology is getting smaller and smaller and faster every year. It's called Moore's Law. Roughly every 2 years, CPU size shrinks in half, and CPUs get faster by a factor of 2. Oh boy, well, okay, I can't pause. Since the series of twin primes is infinite, and Moore's Law appears to correlate with rapidly advancing technology, public CPU technology will eventually get so small as to reach the Planck length. Will it take 10 years, 5 years, 20? I don't know. I believe the military reached this level of technology long ago and crossed the Planck length and knows what's coming, and that's why they're telling us all about this. They're spilling the beans. I think the military is trying to seed American commerce with the greatest technological breakthrough of all time, with the U.S. Navy actually releasing public domain patents with no royalties. And all this talk of innovation among the CEO class in Silicon Valley, no one has the courage to place their bets and take their chances with this physics in the mainstream commercial world. This equation right here, this formulation of general relativity, is a complete breakthrough. The lack of courage demonstrated by our academic leaders, business leaders, political leaders, I'm really disappointed with this society's lack of courage right now to take any risks or take any chances or to grab hold, try to solve problems, try to make it better. How about that? There's a new world for us if we can grab hold right here. I claim that Einstein did this version of his equation back then. He knew. He did this all. He hid this in plain sight. He knew this was the proper way to formulate his field equation in general relativity, and he gave us clues to show us how to reformulate it this way. This physics represents a new world if we can grab hold of it. This is a total game changer. There are commercial applications beyond imagining. Warp drive, anti-gravity, universal cheap energy, teleportation, replicators like Star Trek, invisibility, telepathic communication and control, shape-shifting, out-and-out magic. This is what awaits us.